Hello everyone and welcome to podcast number 2. We have decided on a name, at least a working name. We're going to call it Nil and Friends. My guest today is the very talented Zwaken. He is responsible for all of the music I play when I'm AFK, as well as the intro on the YouTube channel, and he also has several albums you should go check out. So, say hi.
Hello.
He's represented by like the hand-drawn Ninja Turtle or something that's on your screen now.
Yeah, I think that was done in Paint good 5-6 years ago.
That's got to be a Ninja Turtle, right?
I don't know. I just put a bunch of triangles together and it worked.
Well, it's holding a sword and it's got like a bandana over its eyes and it's
turtle.
Yeah, all right. And possibly a nunchuck in the offhand. I'm not sure.
Kind of like a weird sickle-looking thing.
Okay. So today, since I've got you here, and I think we've both finished it, I wanted to talk a little bit about Dark Souls 3, the DLC that just came out, and the franchise as a whole. So, first and foremost, have you finished the DLC?
I have gotten to the very last boss, and I still haven't finished the boss yet. So I've played through all of the maps, but just with one character, and then the final boss I still have to beat.
Did you beat the other boss, the dude guarding the arena?
Yeah, that was an invasion, right?
No.
Oh, then I'm a little further behind than I thought.
Yeah, it's the guy that unlocks the PvP arena. It's just like another boss fight that's kind of hidden in the world. Well, we can still talk about the the journey through.
Right.
I don't even remember it. Arandel? What's it? Hold on. Ariandel.
Painted World.
Ariandel. That's, I guess, what it's supposed to be pronounced as. Yeah, because the dude's name is Ariandel. Okay, so journey through the painted world of Ariandel. What were your sort of initial thoughts on it?
Well, I really liked the way the art was. I really liked that it wasn't too much like Painted World. It was a lot more like outdoorsy, and there were these kind of I don't know. It was just a very different snow area compared to a lot of the other snow areas from Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2. So it was pretty fresh in that regard, I thought. And then a lot of the enemies were a lot of fun to fight and also unique. And then you start picking up new gear relatively quickly in DLC, and you keep finding new gear, but the journey ends really quickly is the issue.
Yeah, I like a lot of the gear, but for me, using it, especially against other players, almost seems to highlight how poorly designed a lot of the base game's equipment is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I went the other day to test out the PvP arena they added, and ended up being there for 4 hours using all new weapons. And, I mean, my favorite one is by far Valor Heart, which is from the boss I guess you haven't found yet. And it's a sword and shield combo, and it's, they're attached together, and you can use it as a really small straight sword, or when you two-hand it, it pulls out this little shield. And it's so cool because it's got blocking frames on its attacks. So when you attack, it's meant to trade because you're blocking while you're swinging. So you win the trade almost every time unless it's an ultra weapon. And it's so cool. I mean, its attacks have huge forward momentum, and it deals pretty good damage, and it's so unique. And, it's the same with all of the weapons I've seen from the DLC have these really cool and unique mechanics, but then we're almost if you want to use something cool, you kind of have to use a DLC weapon because all of the other ones are R1.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. What kind
Yeah.
of what equipment are you using out of the DLC?
Uh, I mean, you know how I love claws, so I was really harping on those claws for PVM. I haven't really tried them out for PvP except for the little testing I've done with you, but it's actually a lot of fun to use those. Um, the move set is a lot better than the other claws, I feel like, because there's this roll hit that you do, the R1 out of roll, instead of you just doing the roll and then hitting, you do this extra like mini roll and then
Right.
you attack. It's pretty long range, and then there are like different jump attacks and stuff like that. So it just makes the claws a little more fun.
I think that's another issue though is the DLC weapons that share classes with prior weapons in the game seem to almost just be better versions. Like the follower saber is just a better Karthus curve sword in almost every way. I think it's a little bit shorter, but
Which
it's
is like not good because Karthus was already really good.
I mean that's one of my biggest problems with Dark Souls 3 as far as weapon design goes was the weapons weapons are just objectively better than others. I mean, Karthus curve sword was not only the longest curve sword in the game, but also the highest AR. And then it just like goes down the line where the longest ones are all the high AR ones, and then the shorter you get all the way down to Painting Guardian, they just lose AR. So like, there's no reason to ever use Painting Guardian sword because it's the lowest AR and the lowest range. Like, it's just an objective scale from like bad to good in one
Right.
category. And like all of the axes in the game, Scott June, the streamer, tested out axes on one of his videos, and all of the axes not only had the same moveset, but they were within 3 or 4 AR of each other. I mean, what's the fucking point?
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah, that is weird.
So, but how do you feel about the game Dark Souls 3's DLC as far as cost to time played? Because I think the DLC was really good, but I mean, it's what, a $15 DLC? I mean,
It's
it's
20 for the season pass, yeah, so
that's rough, man.
yeah, I feel like they could have priced it like 5 or 10 and like it would have been a lot more appropriate, but like 15 for how short it seems. Like I haven't finished it, but I mean, I've gone through most of it and it was a pretty quick, and I'm not the most skilled Dark Souls player either, so
Well, I mean, I'll tell you right now, the boss you're on is the end of the DLC story, and then the other one is just hidden somewhere that you went by. So, I mean, it's yeah, you've seen the whole DLC.
yeah.
Um, I mean, think about the Dark Souls 2 DLCs and Dark Souls 1 and you know, the Ulasil DLC. They added hours of content to the game. I mean, first of all, they were extremely difficult to get through, and then I think the fastest I beat any of the DLCs was probably Ivory King for Dark Souls 2, and that was still probably 4 hours first playthrough, maybe more than that.
Yeah. I mean, the other DLCs, shoot, I just had a thought and I kind of lost it. Go
Well,
ahead.
we're getting one more with this $25 season pass.
Hmm. I mean, it's fun because like there's the same amount of gear it feels like that were in a lot of the other DLCs, but just the general length of the story itself felt that's where it really fell. It wasn't so much that it lacked in like tons of new gear. I'm not sure what the exact numbers are on that, but
That's something that is kind of reminiscent of Bloodborne. I know you don't have a PS4. If anybody hasn't played it, Bloodborne was the PS4 exclusive FromSoft game. It is very, very Souls-esque, so much to the point where people have started calling the franchise Soulsborne, because it's essentially the same gameplay model, but then different. Um, that game didn't have many weapons, it had there were no weapon classes. Every weapon had a unique moveset, and then the result of that is I think there were maybe 10 or 11 weapons in the whole game. And the DLC just about doubled that number. It really, because people had complained about the sort of lack of variety in the weapon department, and so, you know, FromSoft heard them and released, almost doubled the amount, and it almost feels like people were complaining about the lack of variety in movesets in Dark Souls 3, and so that's what they gave us, is they gave us a ton of weapons with, new moves and different ways to go about it.
It's still just so odd from the base game having that like extra lack of move sets compared to the other Souls games.
Yeah, you look at Dark Souls 1, and I know similar things were done in Dark Souls 2, where, there weren't straight swords. You had your long sword, your short sword, your bastard sword, and they all had different movesets, and then there were, especially in Dark Souls 2, there were weapons with hybrid movesets between the two. Yeah. And there's bastard swords maybe have a different R2 in Dark Souls 3, but other than that, it's the same. And the other big offender is, I feel like there's almost never a reason, unless I'm an S-Dock turtle or something, to one-hand my weapon in Dark Souls 3. I mean, it just feels like the one-handed movesets feel pretty bad across the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare that I'm one-handing. Like, at least, unless I'm trying to cast or parry or something like that, I am two-handing all the time.
They did buff the one-handed greatsword moveset a lot in the expansion patch or the DLC patch, so I guess it's viable now. I haven't tried it. I've only been using DLC weapons since the DLC came out. I don't play a lot of Dark Souls these days, but so what do you think about? So now that we've gotten a look at one of the DLCs, and I feel like that gives us an idea of what the other DLC is going to be like. How are you feeling about the Dark Souls 3 experience, and then, compared to 1 and 2?
I mean, it's definitely a fun playthrough. There's no doubt about that. Things feel more fluid in general with the gameplay. Graphics are the best they've been, but I don't know. Like, the moveset thing was kind of a big deal, and it made a lot of the newer weapons that were in the same classes not really feel all too much like new weapons. A lot of the spells just cannot be used in PvP at all. And yeah, the first DLC being that short was kind of disappointing.
Let's be real, a lot of the spells can't be used in PvE either. Yeah. A lot of the spells just can't be used.
Right. Yeah, it was really disappointing, like, especially after the Dark Souls 2 DLC, because that was amazing. Like, that is some of the best Soul stuff there is out there is the Dark Souls 2 DLC. But I don't know, the Freeze DLC didn't quite hold up, but I do feel like the base game is better than 2.
That's interesting. I'm going to actually disagree on that, because I feel like the single-player experience in Dark Souls 3 was better than the single-player experience in Dark Souls 2, but I didn't really have a desire to play through it a second time, and I know a lot of people are the same way, whereas they put hundreds and hundreds of hours into all of the previous Soulsborne games. I mean, people seem to burn out on Dark Souls 3 very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the PvP is like the most stale it's been in a while. There are just a lot of people using all the same weapons. It's a lot of straight swords and shit like that. So.
Well, I mean, there were a couple prize pool tournaments in Dark Souls 3, and if you watch them, I mean, no offense to the people hosting them or the people in them. It's the game's fault, not theirs, but they were gross. I mean, in the first tournament, the guy that won, a player named Bao Bao, only dropped one match, and it was all like best of 3s, best of 5s, and then the final best of 7. And all he did was use a spear S-dot combo and then just like poke faster at multiple ranges than anybody else could. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Right.
And I mean, I fought a couple very high tier players in my dueling circuit, and it's it's a lot of two-handed curve sword or straight sword and shield and high pressure, and
Right.
it's nobody presses R2. All the tech from Dark Souls 2 is gone as well. I mean, in Dark Souls 2, you saw backpedaling all the time because there were iframes on it. You could dodge with backpedaling, and you
And
know
the new like two-handing thing was pretty interesting too, like the different stance or whatever they called it in Dark Souls 2 when you held Y.
oh yeah, power stance.
Yeah.
That was so cool too, because there were combos, dual weapon combos in Dark Souls 3 where it felt like I had three different move sets available. Because you could not power stance dual wield them, you could two hand either one, or you could power stance it. And I mean, it just like I remember rolling around with axe S-dot combo, and it gave them the power stance of like the straight swords, and so you had straight sword power stance, axe combo, parry in the offhand, and S-dot poke or rapier poke. It was so good, but
So here's kind of an odd question. So obviously From Software still has to do the next DLC, but after that, 3 is pretty much going to be wrapped up, and
right.
I kind of feel like the Soul series is going to be wrapped up. I mean, I feel like Dark Souls 4. I don't know. I don't feel like that's going to happen. Um,
Well, Miyazaki said he was done. He said Dark Souls is over for him.
okay, for sure.
He also said that he wouldn't be opposed to somebody else coming back and doing another game in the series if they wanted to. But I mean, like that's his sort of brainchild, and it's he's calling it quits.
Hmm. But I mean, he did make the Bloodborne was very similar, and what I'm getting at here is the next new IP, if it is a like new series, do you think it's going to be like very Dark Soulsy, or do you think they might try to do something different?
That's a good question. I think I don't know. They hinted at the new IP at E3 this past year. I don't think it's going to be Souls-esque. I mean, I think they'd be fools to not incorporate some of the mechanics and things they learned in Dark Souls.
Mhm.
Um, but as far as core gameplay goes, control schemes, UI, things like that, I don't think we're gonna get another Souls game for probably a decade or so.
Right.
Because what kind of he said, or what he implied was he's kind of done having FromSoft be the Dark Souls company. I mean, that's why they stepped away from Armored Core for a long time. Was they were the Armored Core company for years, and now they're not. Now they're the Dark Souls company. I don't know. I'm trying to think of just the franchise as a whole, and it's so good, but I feel like Dark Souls 2 and 3 both never lived up to the sheer hype of Dark Souls 1. I mean, if I had to rank the Soulsborne games, I would probably say Demon Souls, Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3.
Okay. Yeah, for me, it was a kind of jarring change because I didn't play Demon Souls. The first one I played was Dark Souls 1. And
You should
in
play
that
Demon
game,
Souls, it's good.
yeah, I need to play both that and Bloodborne, like bad.
Bloodborne is a better game probably overall than Demon Souls, but Demon Souls was like the true start of the
Right.
the franchise, and it it has, I don't know, there's this cool thing that they do in Demon Souls where all the loading screens are like these famous characters, and then they talk about all of these famous characters throughout the game, and then you can go and meet all of them. Like, they're everywhere, and they have, like, the world tendency system got backlash, but, like, every single NPC in Demon Souls is probably the quality of, like, a Solaire or an Andre from Dark Souls 1. And then it also doesn't have... I mean, I played back through Dark Souls 1 on Global Restart Day and Return to Lordran. The third act of that game is just garbage. I mean, once you get the Lord Vessel and you've got to go into Lost Izalith and Tomb of the Giants, I mean, that's just shitty design. But
Yeah, speaking of the Lord Vessel, this is kind of like the jarring change that I wanted to talk about from 1 to 2, is instantly being able to use the bonfires right from the start from Dark Souls 2. I think that took away a lot of the level design in that. Like, it felt very interconnected. Like in Dark Souls 1, if you find a shortcut, like, that's a big fucking deal.
right. And that's interesting because I agree with that. I didn't like... I mean, people complained a lot about backtracking in Dark Souls 1. I honestly don't mind because the world's not that big and it's so well connected. But then they kind of got back to that with Bloodborne. Bloodborne has a central hub with teleports to it, but it doesn't help you get through each individual level because the central hub is a completely different zone. So you can you can essentially teleport from the bonfires to the central hub, but there's like a lot less bonfires, and you still need to get through the level. And so the shortcuts and the interconnected loops help a lot with that.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like a good in between. But then in Dark Souls 3, it's the same thing where you've just got,
Yeah, go wherever.
go wherever. I mean, like, kind of slaps you in the face with it too, because that's how you get to the first fucking level. Is you have to...
I was actually, like, for the first 30 minutes, I was running around being like, all right, where do I go? Like, where's the next path? And then finally, like, I sit down at the bonfire. I'm like, oh, right. Like, that was a really odd change for 3. Like, even, like, 2 felt a bit more interconnected than that. But yeah, it was odd just going from level to level in 3.
Well, at least with 2... I don't know. Majula wasn't, like, really a hub, 2 didn't really have a hub. Like, you could teleport all over the place, but you had to progress through the world.
Right.
3 is, like...
Stage select.
Yeah, it's almost like... Demon Souls does that. Demon Souls has a hub, and you teleport to each world, and it's, like, completely different. But it, like, fit into the lore of that game. It doesn't really fit in here because you were going to like other lands that had stones that bind them all together, and so they're supposed to be like cross continent. But I don't know. Dark Souls 3 has done a lot of stuff that I'm not fond of.
Yeah, I'm there with you, but I mean, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a good game. I mean, it's still fun to play.
I mean, I've got 311 hours in it according to Steam, so.
Right.
But oh, Dark Souls. I mean, it's also interesting to see how... Let's talk a little bit... I mean, I know we're sort of running short on time here, but let's talk a little bit about how the Souls franchise has sort of shaped the market. Because, I mean, Souls-esque games are now a full-blown genre, and there's a lot of them. Have you played any of the sort of Dark Souls inspired games?
I'm familiar with them. The one I've heard you talk about most is Dragon's Dogma, and then I've seen the 2D side scroller knockoff pretty much, which is Salt and Sanctuary. And then
I've played most of them at this point. Dragon's Dogma is... I don't know. I have a lot to say about Dragon's Dogma, and I wish I was voicing my opinion years ago when it was still relevant. because I didn't fully beat it until a year after the PC remaster came out, which is tons of time after the game's
Right.
development. But I would hesitate to even call that Souls-esque. I mean, the combat is so unique and dynamic. Salt and Sanctuary I played recently. I didn't finish it. I gotta be honest. I put time into Salt and Sanctuary. I didn't enjoy it.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it was okay. I just didn't have fun playing it.
I haven't played it myself, but that's what I hear a lot of people say is that it just is lacking. Like there's no specific. It just everybody is like, I was kind of bored playing it, even though I felt like I shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's okay. It's pretty well made, but it's just not fun.
Right.
The others that come to mind are Lords of the Fallen was really the first Dark Souls clone. I know it was free on PS3 recently, or maybe PS4. That game is like the biggest piece of shit. It's just so bad. Um, and then Necropolis is more recent, but I mean that's even kind of hard. But I think with games like Necropolis, it shows this tendency where people are getting away from the sort of Lords of the Fallen, just making Dark Souls with their own IP, and into like, well, this is a pretty good basic control scheme. Let's make our own game with it.
Yeah.
But do you think that's a positive thing, or do you? I mean, a lot of the games we're talking about, especially those seems like the more Souls like they are, the worse they are as games. I mean, are people just trying to capture something that they can't, that we're not going to be able to recreate, or is this a legitimate genre that's going to flourish and give us more games?
I think that there will be other games that are Dark Souls inspired that are good, but I don't think there are going to be many like straight up clones that kind of like you said, the more it's like it, the more that it feels like a direct copy, the more it feels like you're just playing a bad version of Dark Souls.
But which one's going to be developed more?
That's
Because the game industry has a terrible habit of blockbuster mentality of just trying to copy something successful.
mm,
And it almost never works. I don't know why people keep trying to do it. It never works. When
right.
is when have any of the Five Nights at Freddy's clones or like been good games or
Dude, I don't know. House One was pretty strong.
oh man, I can't even I can't deal with House One. In case anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, in my recent horror marathon for Halloween, I attempted to play a game. I didn't make it very far in House One. I attempted to play a game called The House One that was made in Unreal Engine, and you were a guy on a bed with a flashlight. And so it was the Five Nights at Freddy thing where you like don't move and you monitor what's happening around you. Except you don't monitor what's happening around you. You just hear a noise and then turn on your flashlight towards it. And that's the whole game. And I mean, your flashlight can run out of battery, but that's a non-factor if you don't just leave it on, and there's no reason to. And there's not like a timer that shows you how much is left in each night. And the story was bad, and oh god, that's one of the worst games I've ever played. Sorry to the developer of The House One, but you should know better. But I mean, that's like all games that seem to copy other games are just bad. I mean, look at Medal of Honor tried to copy Call of Duty too much with that one game they made that got SEAL Team 6 in trouble because they leaked mission files. I don't even. That's how bad it was. I don't even remember what the name of the game was.
I didn't know that they leaked information on it.
Yeah, well, they were trying to make it super realistic, so they got former members of Navy DevGru. Warfighter, there we go. Medal of Honor Warfighter. That game killed the Medal of Honor franchise. That's how well that one did.
that one did so well. I've never heard of it.
It was the big. It came out around the same time I think Black Ops did, and it was trying to be like the big. Like it was Medal of Honor going full Call of Duty.
Right. Like
Which is a dumb thing to do because it's successful, but even the people that buy Call of Duty hate Call of Duty. You look at the reviews on Call of Duty, and it's like 10 million sold. Everyone hates it.
Yeah, I feel like after Modern Warfare 2, it's like, why do you need to buy another Call of Duty game?
Yeah, it's. But are we gonna get that with Souls? Are we gonna get?
I hope it doesn't get us out of hand.
I mean, if you've played Lords of the Fallen, it's like the Medal of Honor Warfighter of Dark Souls games.
Oh man.
It's so good that the opening cinematic is the big character like yelling at 100-foot tall demon, and then it flips to like the future, and they never go back and explain what the fuck you just saw. Like, it's the guy in a desert, and he yells at, like, a demon coming out of the rocks. And then it's like, in the future, and he just got out of jail, and there's another demonic invasion. And they just don't tell you what happened. It's so bad. It makes me want to play not shitty games. Have you gone back and played any of the Souls games, sort of in the modern era?
I played a bit of one. I don't think I actually made it a full playthrough, but I got, actually right around the part you were saying, I got the Lord Vessel, and then pretty shortly after that I kind of fell off.
Yeah, you just gave up.
I was like, I know what happens next.
I don't need to run through lava with half-finished dragon models that... What is that room even supposed to be? I mean, they openly said that Lost Izalith got cut due to time constraints. I mean, it's just an unfinished zone, but man, it's bad, and it's topped off with I think what is unanimously considered the worst boss fight in all of Souls.
Like the centipede when you're at the little beach part of the lava.
Oh no, dude! Bed of Chaos, the dodge the hole in the ground game.
Oh yeah, that thing was. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's so bad. Because there's also I did it on Return to Lordran 3 days ago, or not 3 days. What the hell am I saying? Like a month ago, and there's an RNG element to being able to make the jump at the end when they're doing the sweeping hands. She like sweeps and tries to knock you off repeatedly.
Yeah.
Because if she does that twice in a row, you don't have enough... Like, you can be right at the max range of it and start sprinting. And if she just does it again instead of another attack, you don't have time to make it. And if you wait, the other attack is the Firestorm, and it has a chance to knock you up, so you can't wait.
Right.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, I remember, my first time trying it, it didn't take me that long. And then... I think actually on my playthrough recently, it was several months ago, I think I did make it to the Bed of Chaos again, now since I'm thinking about it. And it took me surprisingly longer that time. Way, way longer.
I mean, it's just a shot in the dark whether you make that last jump. As soon as you know where the holes in the ground are, it's not hard to get to the sides, but then the jump is just, whatever. There's no skill factored in there. You can't block that attack either. It just moves your model.
Right.
But come on, that's in the same game as Ornstein and Smo. That's in the same game as Artorias, the Abyss Walker. Those boss fights are amazing.
Yeah. Artorias was probably my favorite in the DLC.
Yeah, I mean that's... I'd probably put Artorias as my 2 or 3 favorite boss in the franchise. I gotta give a lot of the top spots to Bloodborne though. I mean, you should really, if anybody out there hasn't played Bloodborne, if you can't get a PS4, I mean it's worth the PS4, just that one game, to be honest. But if you don't want to pay that much money, go find somebody that has one go play Bloodborne. It's so good, and the bosses are good, the level's good, the story's good. It's phenom. All right, well, we should probably call it a day there.
All right, for sure.
Just kind of reminiscent about Dark Souls. We'll see what the final DLC has in store. I think it's due in the spring, right?
Yeah.
Well, when that happens and I beat it, if I'm still podcasting, hopefully by then I might get a panel together and just discuss the end of the series as a whole. But that is for another time, far in the future. Again, so Zwaken, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, I've got a SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Zwaken, and then I've got a Bandcamp. Bandcamp. Actually, I think the address is a little different for that. If you search Zwaken, you'll find me real easy. I got several free album downloads, so if you want to just peruse them, you're not supposed to pay, so have at it.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining me. That is again Zwaken, very talented. I guess we're saying IDM musician, genre-defying electronic musician. If you're ever in the Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti area of Michigan, definitely come check out his stuff. And check him out online. There will be a link in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube to all of his stuff, the stuff you just mentioned. And that has been this week's podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be back next week. Don't have a guest yet. I'll figure it out. And I hope everyone has a good night. And I will see you all next time. Bye.